Hi, George. Hi, Ignacio. Hi, Natalia. Yes, good morning from Vallejo, and I'll join that. That's what you started, George. I'm saying good morning from Houston, Texas. Okay, and you hear me okay, right? Yes, yes, thank you. And I'm asking just because this morning there were some problems and I had suddenly to present on another computer, which I wasn't prepared, and it still worked out okay. Okay, and hello from New Jersey. Okay, so we're waiting. I'm early. I'm a few minutes early, and that's nice. I will prepare everything for you guys. I will share the screen. That's the first thing I will prepare. Okay. And that browser I don't really need. Okay. And that's the only thing that I will need. There you are. That's what you do need. And hi, Steve. And that's your link. Hello, Steve. Okay. Without mic, you can still type, but if you want to talk, I will enable that. In any case, that's the link. So if you click here, I will see this anonymous goose or anonymous something browser. And we're waiting a little bit for the people to come in. Okay, and now we have our audience all present. What I will do though, I will give you first again that link. That's because those people who came late, I don't think they get the previous conversation. So again, I copied that link. And that is our webinar. Webinar. There you are. Okay, and we can start. Of course, everybody can join later. Okay, so what we're doing is I call it Advances in AI webinar, and I'm very grateful to all you guys and girls who regularly come and force me to survey what's new, to survey what's new in AI applications or related areas. Also, I try it. And that's where the difference lies between very famous people and me, where I am not famous, but instead I'm trying every little piece. Here, okay, we'll be talking about a completely new course on RAG. Now, that word RAG has been around for quite a long time, but we have not been seeing a complete course. Now, that's what it will be. And then we will look at Azure AI Foundry and how do I think that relates to all the other things, and some news that's a new source of data that's specifically interesting to me. So that's what we will be talking about today. And what is maybe interesting to a newcomer, to people who are new here, is that link. I call it a learning path. Let me open it for you here. Okay, so I call it learning path or AI education. Every new thing that we see here is recorded. And not only that, first of all, it's recorded as to what it is. Secondly, it's usually a course from deep learning. So we go there. And thirdly, there is also a repository that I run. It's on the GitHub, on the ElephantScale, and that is what we can use to run. And the difference is here you enjoy the show, and here you can actually run it. Sometimes you need to provide keys. Okay, that is then mentioned. Every lab by now has pretty much the same structure. So let me show you what the regular structure is. Okay, for example, I dirty secret is that I take some of these courses and repackage them and then I teach them. So each one of these is polished, should run if you provide the right keys. And the first step that you do in running any of the labs is how to run the first time. So if you open that, having downloaded that repository. Now, these ones might be closed, but all the other ones, and there are about 100 of them, they're open. So, what you do is first create your local. You know what? I might as well do it, right? Let's do that, and I'll show you how you will actually run it. That will be more fun and more practical. All right, so that is the repository. That is the repository. Then I can clone it. Here it is, clone. Now I will clone it into some temporary repository. So make directory temp, go into temp and git clone repo, and you will clone whatever repo you can. It will come to you. Let's go. So there will be all these labs. There will be how to run the first time, and it should be complete. So let's do it. That's what we were looking at, running the very first time. Here you are. Okay. Now, if you run it the first time, okay, then you have to be in that particular repository. Which one do I want? I want exactly the one we'll be talking about, and that is LLM with the search. So now being there, I first create a Python environment. And by the way, you see what I'm doing. First of all, I go into that lab that I want to run, and every lab will be different. And then I run my setup in that particular lab. So you will have to run the setup 8 or more times, depending upon which labs you do. Then you activate it here, and I'm just showing that yes, you can do it all from a fresh repository. Then you install Python kernel here, and you don't need to know what that is, just do it, okay, here. Then you connect that Python kernel to the environment that you are going to run. There you are, connect. And then finally, you install all the specific requirements. Now, what are the requirements? These are all the packages that you will need. So here you are, packages that you will need, it installs. All right. Now, then there is one very important thing that is .env, and that is the hidden keys. Now, in that case, right, in that case, I will have to copy it from somewhere. I do have it. So I will actually find the place where I have it. But you will not have it. Okay. So is. And what I have in my real repository is ls dot, let me show ls dot env. So it is there. Well, I don't want to show that to you. That's because it's too easy to take these keys. But instead, what I will do is I will copy. I will say copy from here. Okay. From here. Copy to over there. So copy from the real thing dot env to right here, and all the keys will be here. From here I can simply start. I can say Jupyter lab and start, and it should even work. So for example, I can go to the first lab and try the very first. Oh, maybe not with that one because that uses VB8. And that I probably don't have, but all the others would be. Now, why do I show you this? It is related to exactly what I want to talk about. It is related to that. So, in our labs, and we have lots of labs. Let's go back to this. We have lots of RAGs. And RAG, of course, is Retrieval Augmented Generation. You see, you can do knowledge graphs for RAGs. You can do JavaScript RAG. You can do built-in agentic RAG, and so on. There will be quite a lot of RAGs. Now, comes out a new course right here, and you can click here. Let's click there. And you will get a course on Coursera. Now, Coursera is a different beast. It's by Andrew Ng, but it's not like all these previous ones were from deep learning, which is kind of experimental lab. Coursera is polished. It's similar to what I do because I polish and prepare and teach. So that is what Coursera does. So what I prepared is my run through the course and what is in that course and how it's different from each individual lab. And that's what I will show you. All right, so I have actually copied it and prepared in my repository, so I can show that to you right away. Let's go. Here we are. That's what we are running. That link takes you to the course. That link takes you to the description of the course in my repository, so let us go there. All right, and I put it here, and that will show you how is a real complete course different from every individual lab. Now, what is the structure? So Andrew Ng invites, or most likely people come to him when they want to advertise their stuff. And that way you get exposed to new technologies, new people who prepare that course for Andrew, and then you can get it. It's free. Now, what that course is a complete course. In other words, yeah, we will look through all the individual labs, but let me show the complete picture. That's what that is. And it starts by explaining to you the RAG, stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. Now, there will be nothing new because essentially we went through RAGs, a lot of different implementations in previous conversations. So new there will be not. But it's interesting to see what you would get from a complete course. As far as I know, I think that's the first such course complete on the uh, Coursera. Okay, so first of all, they explain the whole idea. They talk about the LLMs and they don't use the word AI now. What that's old fashioned, however you want to call it. But they say, okay, LLMs are pretty powerful, but we want something else. And what is that something else? We want to give them new information that they can't possibly know. What I like about this quick overview is that it gives you practical use cases you might not think about otherwise. What don't they know? AI, let's follow with their terminology. What do LLMs not know? Well, first of all, they don't have access to your private databases, maybe your document repositories. Then maybe you add some information that potentially people could know, but it would be very hard for them. For example, it's not available online, or real-time lookup. Now, real-time lookup will require you to use some API for that. But after you looked it up, you can add that information. That's the major idea. What you do is you take this LLM, you add this information, which may come from your private repositories, and that's perhaps where you will get add-on value, right? And then give it in addition. So the end result is well known. It is the major question, but the way you ask it is you also add, provided that you know additional context. So what you could say to LLM is, here's my question, but here is more information. How do you say it in the code? That's what is really interesting, and every library will give you a way. But to start with, you can say, just add the text, and in this text you can say, and by the way, you should know things from the news reports and from forum posts. That is the general setup. So, what can that be used for? What are the applications? Of course, everybody knows the obvious applications. That means you give it the context. But as it turns out, if you build in something with the code, that is actually how that's implemented. You provide the code snippets and you then provide the question. And in addition, you can do questions and answers about the code. So that's how you would implement some things, but more. For example, company chatbots. That I cannot resist mentioning that that is the place for hackers. Once you have company chatbot open to the world, that's another wonderful place for the hackers to be. Now, I promised last Thursday to do the first AI webinar. I didn't do it for last Thursday, but next Thursday, yeah, that's the plan. We'll be hacking away. But okay, stop ourselves right here. What you can do is tailor it to your company policies and using your internal documents. Perhaps using knowledge. That's legal knowledge. And by the way, I have some great news about that later on. It will be about a new open source body of legal knowledge, which is dear to my heart. All right. The next one is applications. What these were more of the use cases. What are the applications? So you can use the search engines, but in a smarter way. Potentially, yes. You can summarize the results. In other words, whatever you imagine. And it turns out that that is the hardest part. That's what Andrew Ng said in his latest letter. Exactly what are you going to build? That's exactly very precious. How precious? Well, I was able to convince Amazon previously that I have this idea about Tutor. Okay, Tutor is now called, I think it's called Tutor or something similar, implemented in Coursera. So it's the idea that you can add AI, and when you teach people, you can do that. That is one thing that I was able to convince Amazon, and they built something. Now I have something else. I'm building the new version of my e-discovery software. And again, surprisingly enough, but I was able to convince Amazon that that's a good thing for me, and they should be able to build it for me. But of course, my estimate that they will only build only 10% of what I really need. In any case, use cases are worth their weight in gold today, and that's what I'm doing, and that's what regs are good for. And then personalized regs. The end result is just that. You take your LLM, you take your data, and that's what the course introduces you to, as if you didn't know. But in addition, it gives you a few use cases that you wouldn't even think about. That is approach of the course, and um, that's the general scheme of things. So you add additional information from your databases. Now, that is only an introduction. Now we'll have to go and investigate exactly how you do every one of those things. The advantages, they start with a small code snippet, but it's worth reading. Okay? Question: why the hotel prices of Vancouver super expensive this weekend? And they will have to find out who is in town this week. But what they need to say is, what is the additional information available that you get from retrieved documents? Exactly how? Well, our friend vector databases. What documents are there that are close by meaning? That's really the key. And then you give it additional information as a way of prompt plus your question. Right. Now I'll pause for a second because there will be four more modules. So let me go and look at your chat. Greg says we're working mostly with VV8, support Pinecone, and with latent support for Chroma and Zilis. And all of these, Greg, do you want to explain what these are for those people who may not know? Or I can explain that these are different databases. That was that magical new piece, additional information that's bringing you documents that are close in meaning. And that close in meaning is not perfect, but it's a 2013 technology, but it works. So that's where we are. Thank you, Greg. All right, now the next step. This is the complete course. Do you need it? Honestly, no, because we have surveyed all of these approaches. VV8, we have it. Here's VV8. Other Chroma, we probably have it Chroma. So all of the makers of these technologies came to Andrew, created the course. That's the link to this course. And I think it's becoming already useful for that list, because it has close to 100, you see 104 different entries. Okay, so what you get if you take that course, so that if you want to recommend it to someone, let's go. No, not here, and not here. Lost it, but I'll find it. Okay, here it is. So, four more modules that go into specifics of how you do it. All right, so is it all free? Advertised, yes, but practically no. Advertised, do you want to get access to the read-only material, and then if you want to pay, you will get the certificate of completion. But that was old style because really some of these modules, if you click on them, they say you need subscription for that. So, what will be included? Well, first of all, we need to talk about the difference between keyword search and the semantic search. And you pretty much can find it in our previous labs. Then there will be databases, vector databases, those that can find documents that are close in meaning, and Weaviate that Greg just mentioned is part of here. And if you click on that in the real course, it will tell you want to know Weaviate? No, buy the subscription. And then there will be a question of chunking. That is because your documents are big and nobody can process them neither for keyword search or for AI. You want to break each piece, and that's not an easy task at all because each piece of the document might have only part of the information. So, how do you break it? The usual strategy is paragraph, but I'm sure you can right away imagine how one paragraph may be too little or too big, and that's where you're going to tweak it to do the right thing. That's called chunking, and there's a video and a complete lab with different modes and options of chunking. That's module number 3. Then module number 4, um, basically, how do you build your prompt? How do you do two steps? First of all, get the prompt, then send that prompt to the vector database, then get back the list of documents and what you use there. And what you use usually is that glue lang chain. That is number 4, and that is number 5. So how to do it in production. Now, in that too, we had it all here, and that will be here, for example, built-in big unstable applications. That's how you do it in production. Also, recently they came, what do they call it? This new job, Akka. Akka is the very sophisticated framework for multiple agents running at the same time. So they also want to say that build it with us. Akka is pretty hard. What I found is not that easy. So I would start with agentic, like here, maybe using protocols, maybe just implement agentic. And if you look here, you will find quite a lot of agentic, right? Agentic with llama, agentic design patterns. So you see quite a lot of choices on building something that is agentic. All right. And we were right here. Ah, I keep losing it. Yeah. And that would be pretty much it. So if you want to know, is there a new course completely covering regs and much more than you ever need, it's here. So if you are very new to that, you can take that course. If you are already deeper into that, you can just use any of these courses and review, and that pretty much covers that. What we need to go now to is Azure AI Foundry. What is that? Well, things are moving very fast. It used to be that Microsoft only had a choice of ChatGPT. In fact, you could use straight ChatGPT or you could get it on Azure. That's what it used to be just a few months ago. However, they wanted to become more of a business like. So they created this Azure AI Foundry. Let's go there. And they prepare you by teaching kind of you how to use it. But the major idea is that whatever you do will be the right thing if you use a Foundry. So In other words, we prepare you a place where you can build. So first of all, they explain what AI is, and I hope by now everybody here knows what AI is. Then you go to which services have they packaged for you, and so far you still pretty much are in the realm of ChatGPT. But use with both. I use both ChatGPT from the OpenAI and Azure. Azure is much more structured and much more restrictive. So if given the choice, I would always go with even if on Azure, but my own private one. However, sometimes I need to work with the government one, and I can tell you right away, extremely restrictive. They protect you. But if my documents have exactly what I want to protect from, like violence, and my police documents, they do have violence, so you can appreciate how hard it is. But in any case, that was veering to the side. Let's go back. Let's go here and go to the next step. I know where I'm going. There will be a next step. So that's the Foundry. That's where you would create your projects, and that's where you would create your implementation. So obviously they have trying to push you into the direction, build it here. Don't build it who knows where, because we give you all the tools, guys, all the tools. So these are the SDK, that's how it integrates into Visual Studio. And responsible AI means that I told you about all these problems that I have with doing things like I don't want my solutions to be fair. I don't want them to be secure I want, but the like inclusiveness. Well, that's good for a public facing company. My documents have sexual orientation, they have gender, and I absolutely need that. Don't hide it. All right, that's me. Okay, but there's an exercise, and there was a questionnaire that I wanted to give you. So go to the next one. All right, guys. Let's try to answer. Okay? Okay. Question number one. Which Azure resource provides language and vision services from a single endpoint? Okay, it should be extremely easy because I want to sell you that thingy. Any answers? So, language and vision services from a single point. What would your guess be? I would say a simple guess. Azure AI services because its language then will be all the language. Right, exactly. Exactly. That's what I think. How about the next one? You plan to create a simple chat app that uses the generative AI model. So, which project should you create? By the way, number four, none of the above, but that is not an option. So, Azure Foundry project, Azure AI Hub based project, or Azure AI Custom Vision project? Haha, yes, haha. So here, AI services. AI services. You said. How about the second one? Foundry. This one, right? Or maybe Hub. Okay, one or the other, and then in the end they should give us the real answers. So let's try that. Let's try Azure Foundry, and then which SDK enables you to connect to resources on the project? Which SDK? Well, of course, let's say Azure AI Semantic, Azure AI Foundry. Well, yeah, I know you're laughing, but last question, honestly. Uh, did you say services? Aha, I would say Azure AI Foundry. In any case, what they want to tell you is whatever you do is here. All right, I'll try that. Foundry services. I don't know, Paul. I'll do it like you. Okay, and the answer. Okay, so we were right on Azure services here, Foundry here, but here in the end, so must be that it is, how about that? Oh, you cannot. How about previous? Try it again. Too late. Well, but in any case, we don't have to. All right. That is an example of what Foundry does. And you don't have to go into every detail. What Foundry does, it's just another environment to build and to convince you that you should only use services from Azure. I think we're convinced. All right. Now we close that and we go to the last item here. And the last item here is that case law. Case law is precious because lawyers charge by the hour. And I would venture to say we're talking around $500 an hour. That is why the lawyer bill comes to you like quarters of an hour, right? Well, I can tell you, Lancer, my practical experience is that we are using essentially uh, um, ChatGPT packaged in Azure because we have to be in Azure. And even if you are just using ChatGPT by now, you're forced into this foundry. That is where you set everything up, and that's where you set up your access to ChatGPT, your filters, which you, in my case, don't want. That's what they are. Okay, Sanjita, will you be sharing these documents, links, and recordings? Well, the most important link is that one. Let me give that to you because that's always open and that all of these things are here. There you are. So that's number one. Number two, of course, you can write to me at ElephantScale.com because right now we're rebuilding our website. And in that website, let me open that. Okay, webinars. We used to have all of these webinars, and right now, I just don't see that. Okay, so there was a list of 100 and more previous webinars. Somewhere I saw it. So we'll fix it. There will be a button to say, uh, here are the previous webinars, and that's where it's recorded. If you need like tomorrow and it's not there, email me and I will ask where are you putting the previous recordings, guys. Okay. I hope that did answer your question. Going back to where I share the screen here, chat. Unable to open it. What are you unable to open? Not that one, right, Al? That link? Research project with, yeah, that would be interesting, Steve. Give it me. But which you cannot open? Is it this one, Steve? Is it that one? Because that open should be. So I try to do this. I try to go to an anonymous browser. Guest profiles. Hello. Open guest profile and yeah, it's open. There you are. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about, case law. And I was just talking about how people know that there's lots of money there. Okay, so let's look at case law. They say it's a just newly opened case law. Let's look at the structure. It's on Hugging Face. It's very recent. How many people already downloaded it? It's in the hundreds. Of course, who in his right mind wants to do that? But there are a few people who very much want to do it because you can build some very lucrative systems. But let's look at what they give us. They give us here about 500,000 rows. 500,000 rows. The rows can be sorted by state. You see here is Alabama and on and on. They contain, there is a structure. Case law, centralizing legal decisions for better use, a community data set. I wonder where they got that, but somehow. Case law is a comprehensive collection of legal decisions from various countries centralized in a common format. So I would say to concentrate on specifically California, that's where I build, then it probably is too much. But I wonder how many California laws there. This dataset aims to improve the development of legal AI. Of course, that is the major point, to provide a standardized, easily accessible corpus of global legal documents. So there is some work left for you to do, but at least it is starting here. That's the structure. You have each document, you have its title, citation. That's in the legal world. How do you quote that? Docket number, which I still don't quite understand what that is, but the intuitive understanding is classification. Which state? So next time I will tell you how much about California, who did it, and so on. Now, here is the structure. So it's a very simple structure. And here is the code. These are the country splits, but here's the code. That's what you need to do. Just run it like that, and we can try it. Just let's try it and see what happens. Well, I need to be in the. You know what? I should really try it and do it, and should really look deeper. Okay, that's what I would do, because I'm not giving you justice, and wasting your time here now doesn't work. So what I'm doing is, let's go deeper. Okay, so for the next time, it's July 25. All right, and that I think was enough. But that, go deep into this. Really, I will tell you what I mean by go deeper, but at least that's a note. All right. Now, I am going to look at your comments and see what I can do with them. Yeah, it doesn't look sufficient for real use, but at least it is a start. Okay. I work with those guys in California, and they gave me an application on the phone that quickly finds the appropriate law in California. Well, that is a step way behind. So at least I will start, okay? Yeah, I also think that that's not enough, but at least I'll do a complete investigation next time. All right. Thank you very much. Can you please post the Git link you showed earlier? Yes, the most important Git link is right here. So first of all, you come here, right? And for that, you have that link. Okay. Then once you have that open, you go to a learning path. Okay. And in that one, you go to Git here. Any one will work. So if we go there, maybe copy and then paste, that will be one of the open labs. What you need to do is click at the top and then you will have all of the labs. And how many? Well, a good number. Okay, 79. But really there will be more. You just need to assign numbers. So that's what you need. Okay. Am I not going to do that? Honestly, these are all resources that are open. Now, there are some that I have to keep closed, and that's used in training. But the rest, if you start here, that's already a lot. And ask me a question. Again, I will welcome all kinds of comments. Elephant scale. I will also tell you an interesting thing that I'm doing. I want to have one more meetup in person. Can you believe that we were not having them for 5 years, but here are the meetups. And it just so happens that all of Houston meetups fall in my lap. And therefore, I end up with 8 meetups. So I said, guys, who wants to come and meet? And what we're going to discuss is is there a place for humans now that there is AI? And that's what we will talk about. Now, let's see. Here's an event. And nobody's coming. Well, and that's me, and that's another guy. I'll tell you, in a month, I set it August 21, right? August 21 in the library, 6:30. And we will probably do the transmission. We'll do it live also. But right now, maybe nobody wants to be physical. All right, chat. Yes, North Carolina is far. Yes, local and Zoom. That's what we'll have to do. All right, everybody. I'm really thankful to you for coming, and that's useful to me. As I told you, you forced me to learn, and I wish everybody a very good weekend. Uh, well, okay. Your next startup will be two corporate jets, not just one. All right. Thank you, and all the best. Book your jet. Let's click there. Wow, that's a different thing, but okay, funny. All right, everybody. All the best. Goodbye.